Welcome to the Cross the Line podcast. My name is Carlos Smith, and today's episode is sponsored once again by Charlene's Home Cooking on 1136 East Blackstock Road in Moore, South Carolina. Charlene's Home Cooking is a family restaurant that cooks like grandma. Fresh veggies, meats, cooked to order, cakes, pies, cobblers, sweet tea, Kool-Aid, and lemonade. She wants you to feel at home anytime you stop by, so make sure you do. She's open on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday from 11 to 6, Friday and Sunday from 11 to 7, and closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. If you need to call her, you can give her a call at 864-764-1111. You can get a meat in 2 sides or meat in 3 sides and also a veggie plate. Everything is fresh, made from scratch, and she would love to see you sometime. So once again, if you ever get a chance, make sure you stop by Charlene's Home Cooking on 1136 East Blackstock Road. Now, time to introduce our special guest today. This man has made history. He is the first African American pit crew member to win the Daytona 500, and right now I'm sitting with none other than Mr. Derrell Edwards. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So I kind of told people already who you were actually. So just to get started, can you tell people where you're from?
I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, right on the east side of Baltimore, close to Johns Hopkins Hospital. Everyone pretty much knows where Johns Hopkins Hospital is or heard of it. So, right on the east side of Baltimore.
And how was your, you were telling us a little bit off camera before we got started, but just so people know, how was your childhood kind of like growing up?
Man, my childhood, it was, I could sum it up. It was rocky, man. It was tough. It was traumatizing. I say that, and I say that to say this. My family. It was just tough. My dad was a big time kingpin. He sold drugs, stuff like that. My mom was a drug user. So it was tough, man. I grew up right in the projects in Lester Morton Courts on the east side of Baltimore. I seen it all. I seen stuff that a kid, normally shouldn't see, at my age growing up. And just had to grow up fast, man. Had to become a man, real quick, and just learn from everything that you saw and, just embraced it, but let it motivate you, It was some stuff. I spoke to a 5th grade graduation I was telling you about earlier. And it was funny because I didn't have my parents at my 5th grade graduation. And just to share that experience with some kids, I told them I could have been sad, mad, or frustrated about it as a 5th grader, but I allowed it to motivate me, push me to where I wanted to be in life, and it's got me to where I'm at now.
What is kind of like your relationship like now with your parents? Do you have a relationship with them now, or?
Yeah. I got a relationship with my parents. It's a relationship that basically I'm young, 27 years old, but I'm teaching them a lot of things. A lot of things on how to just go about life, how to look at stuff, perspective. You can't really fault them for like the mindset that they're getting better at because where we grew up at, man. Baltimore just was a hard place. We was always mad. We was always frowning or frustrated. So they're learning, with me living outside of Baltimore for years now, they see that joy and happiness that's within me, and they want a piece of it now. So yeah, I got a relationship with them and love them to death. They both taught me a lot of stuff that's got me where I'm at. My mom, always, pushing me and, support me when she can. Like I always listen to a lot of music, and you hear like Meek Mill say stuff like, your parents couldn't come to those basketball games because they had to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, so
Absolutely.
You couldn't really be mad at them for that. So he's telling the truth, when it comes from those rural and city communities like we come from. And Dad, same thing, trying to provide any way he can because he might be a felon. He might have charges where he can't get a normal job and stuff like that. And he got to provide for the family, and the only way was, maybe doing some wrong stuff. So that's just what it was, man. But
what was kind of like your mindset though? Because you could have. What made you go a different route? Because you could have easily kind of followed in the footsteps of like how your parents went, but you chose to do otherwise. What was it that kind of made you say, "This is not for me. I want to do something else"?
Man, just every day, growing up with your friends and stuff. Watching movies, and it was just a mindset, man. You always talked about man, we got to make it out of here. You know, there's definitely something bigger, better for us, you know, outside of Baltimore. We didn't know at the time, and I didn't know at the time, but me using basketball, traveling, playing AAU ball, you know, seeing glimpses of, you know, like Orlando, Florida, just to go play a ball game and stuff like that, I'm like, man, it's a lot of happiness, it's a lot of joy, it's nobody, you know, frustrated, frowning at me, people waving at me, you know, what's this about? So I wanted to taste more of that, and it was a mindset, man.
Right.
It was basically a mindset.
And you kind of felt like that was like your comfort zone when you know, just to kind of escape from everything that was going on back home, like basketball was like your home away from home?
Oh, man, yeah, it definitely was an outlet for me. It was a scapegoat, you know what I'm saying? When I was playing basketball, I just used whatever I was going to do at the time to motivate me, and most of the time I wasn't even thinking about it. But I can remember for high school games, I could walk to my grandmother's house, and she had cancer at the time, and I would just sit and talk to her for a few minutes and then walk back to my game that I had later on that evening. And I just would let it push me and motivate me, like, man, you know, this is for her, this is for that. You know, so anything I was going through, man, basketball was definitely a scapegoat for me.
What all sports did you play? Was it just basketball or any other sports?
Nah, I played basketball, baseball, football. Majority basketball, though. You know, I really love basketball. I felt like I definitely had a God-given talent with that. Real good shooter, very successful with it. And I just stuck with it for the most part. But yeah, I played baseball, basketball, and football.
Did you feel like sports was kind of all you had growing up, seeing how your parents were, you know, doing the things they were doing?
I wouldn't say it was all I had, because like I said, man, it was a cause and effect type of thing for my parents, you know. It was they had no other choice type of thing.
Right.
I mean, they had other choices, but it was just tough choices, you know. And it's a cycle, man. It's a hard cycle, you know, in the cities, you know, that we grow up in, and it's hard to beat those cycles. So it was just that cycle, man. It was just hard for them to get out, and that's why I knew I had to beat the cycle. I couldn't, you know, I had to show these dudes, follow me. Like, I ain't following y'all, because what y'all trying to lead me to do ain't right. You know what I'm saying? You had those friends as well that, you know, the good friends were saying, nah, don't smoke that blunt. Nah, don't roll with us. We're going to do something that ain't right now. So, you know, those were the good friends.
And when did you realize, like, sports-wise, that, okay, you realize, okay, now this is really, like, my chance to kind of make it out of my situation?
Man, I think I realized it early on, man. Carmelo Anthony's grew up in Baltimore, and I always looked up to him for the most part. I had a poster or something up in my room and wrote on it, you know, if he can, I can, you know. So I knew at an early age, man, I was pretty good at it. And like I said, it's a cycle, you know. Coming from where my city, it was either rap, you know, or play sports or something like that to make it out. And I chose that sports side. And at like 8 years old, when I started playing, I'm like, man, this is going to take me out. When I first traveled for AAU, I'm like, man, I'm seeing Orlando, Florida, or this place, that place, this other city or state. I just knew it was it, man. I was always that funny wisdom that I had as a kid growing up, and like growing up quick, that I realized, you know, this definitely could take me someplace. I could use it.
And I think that's kind of how it is, like in the African American community. It's kind of like we were saying a little bit off camera. It's like, for us, it's like either they look at us either as entertainers or athletes. It's like one or the other.
Right.
If you're anything else, then we don't really care. It's like,
right.
We have to be one of those too.
No doubt.
But for you, when you actually got out of that and you went on and played ball. But how did your friends feel, you know, when they was like, okay, Derrell is getting ready to go play college ball? Did they kind of have resentment towards you?
Nah, man, it wasn't no resentment, especially coming out of high school and going off to college. It was all push at that point. You know, a lot of support. You know, like I said, real successful kid, known on the east side of Baltimore for basketball. Everybody felt like I had a chance to make it. And, you know, it was support, man. There definitely was a lot of, you know, support and following, you know, for the most part. It wasn't too much resentment, I felt like at that time. And especially, I mean, from my particular friends, I don't really feel a whole bunch of resentment, but it's almost, it's like that I'm not sure factor either, you know?
Right. Did you have any that, or did you want? I want to say, did you want to stay close to home, or did you already have your mind made up that no, I'm actually going to just go away, get away from home, just to get a different scenery?
Man, I actually had a fear, of going away for school and stuff like that. For basketball, as a kid, you traveled and you stayed for 2 nights. Mm-hmm. 2 nights was cool. That was long enough. And even at that point, I was homesick. So I had a fear going away, but I knew I had to sacrifice that fear and just go to probably, because I watched, older guys. It was Gary Neal played for the Spurs. He's from Baltimore. I started noticing everybody that left Baltimore, that means they wasn't showing up in the city for a few years. Mm-hmm. They came back and they was very successful at whatever they was doing, where they took a couple years away from Baltimore. Mm-hmm. So that's what popped in my head, and I was like, get over that fear, go ahead out to Texas to junior college and still pursue, basketball. And I got over it. I even, went out there and still had those fears and called my brother, man, I'm coming home, mm-hmm. homesick. And, he pushed me and said, man, stay there, stick it out. Like, it ain't nothing we ain't been through
exactly
that we can't handle.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about stepping out of your comfort zone too. And talk a little bit about your basketball career, because as you can see, you have rings lined all the way up across. So kind of talk about from high school to junior college all the way to D1.
All right. So yeah, I went to Dunbar High School, very historic high school. Mm-hmm. Coming out of Baltimore, Muggsy Bogues, Sam Cassell, guys like that played there. Mm-hmm. And so I went to Dunbar, real successful, key guy, real good shooter in high school. Wound up winning the 1A state championship my senior year. Averaged about 25 points or so. Mm-hmm. And then I met with my coach, man, because I had a couple choices. It was like go prep school, which is like a 5th year of high school, mm-hmm. and then go play 4 years Division I. And I had that option, and I had junior college. And I talked to my coach, high school coach, and he suggested I go to junior college, which is out in Texas. Mm-hmm. He said, man, I think you can handle it. Because I was like, man, I don't know, it's far. And he said, I can handle it, man. He's like, I know you. I coached you 4 years. You're the type of guy that's going to find a way to get over it. Went out to junior college, had a very successful freshman year in college, averaged about 12 points or so. Second year, we wound up going 36-0, which has never been done in junior college, So that's just another quiz and small part of like, man, I'm witnessing that. It's something special about me, Every mm-hmm. piece of a team that I'm a part of, it finds a way to, to breathe that energy of winning, and that, I'll like expectancy is contagious. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If I expect a lot, all my people and all my players around me I expect a lot out of them. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So junior college, like I said, it was 36-0. Then I wound up getting the opportunity to go to High Point University to finish out my college career. Played 2 years at High Point University, and won back-to-back regular season championships for them. My junior year and my senior year. And another funny fact, man, of how my life is going. High Point has never won a Division I regular season championship. Yeah. So I was a part of that first regular season championship for High Point University. And we come back to my senior year and do the same thing. And then, man, I meet a guy named Richard Payne, who I met. He was a guy that showed up to the games, real interested in who I was. And he saw that leadership displayed off and on the court for me at High Point University. And was like, man, I think you should come check out NASCAR, come check out Richard Childress Racing and see what it's all about here. I think it's something that you could definitely do. So I went up there, checked it out, wound up doing an internship. Like, man, this is different. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is different, mm-hmm. but it's cool, and I always stepped outside of that box and wanted to do something just a little bit different. It was, like I said, coming from Baltimore, it wasn't really no fear to do something different, right. Or get out of my comfort zone. So went and did an internship for them. Did so well by putting my head down and showing them, just hard work, all effort stuff, And they like, man, you go graduate for High Point and we'll give you a week to go home. You can come back down. We'll offer you a job. Wow. So I started from the bottom of NASCAR. Was the first African-American dude they hired at RCR for a pit crew. And basically, man, I started at the bottom. I mean, getting paid nothing, driving 16 hours to do a race, just driving all over the country just to do a race to show, my effort and my hard work, and that I really wanted to be here and get to that highest level of NASCAR, which was the Cup Series. So same thing, man. It's just showing back to back to back. I go and I got the chance to be on an Xfinity car. A guy wound up leaving or retiring. I go, he vouched for me. He said, man, I think Derrell's ready. I get in there, blow him away. I do my thing as far as pit stops. That following year, I get an opportunity to be on the Cup level. That's the highest level of NASCAR. I'm on Paul Menard's car, blow him away. Very successful year, few mistakes. And then this previous year, 2018, I wound up on Austin Dillon in the 3 car. And as you can see behind me, every jersey coming up was always number 3. So that's just that, like God-given feeling and spiritual thing that I feel like, that 3 was always special to me. And I ended up being on that car.
I want to go back to basketball really quickly. Was it hard for you to kind of let go of basketball at that time because you played at such a young age? And then I guess towards your college grad, it started to wind down. Was it kind of hard to let basketball go?
Yeah, man, it definitely was hard. And it's funny you asked that question because I even had a rough patch time with being a part of NASCAR and working there for like that first year for me. I felt like I was struggling with this because, I didn't learn to love it yet, So I talked to, guys and coaches, like, man, I don't know why I'm not, feeling it too much, but I hadn't let basketball go yet. So I really started approaching NASCAR with that. Hey, if I would have went to the NBA, how would I be preparing? How would I be, if I was at the professional level of NBA? So I carried that over and said, Derrell, why don't you carry it over to NASCAR and do the same thing as if you went to the league? Take that and use it in NASCAR. So I started learning to love it, man. The pit stops, love it, love the working out part of it, and just pit stops in general. Like I love doing pit stops now, man. Yeah, man, it was definitely hard, but in order to be great at something, you gotta fall in love with it. So I had to fall in love with pit stops, and that's what I've done, and that's what's got me.
Was it like a culture shock in a sense from going from, because it's kind of like it's 2 different extremes. You're going from basketball all the way to something like NASCAR. It's something different. Was it kind of a culture shock for you?
It was definitely a culture shock, Like I said, for that first year, I was a real quiet guy, just backing up and going to the racetrack and seeing how it all was done, how it all worked, and filling it out and stuff like that. And it was a different culture for sure. It wasn't that exact locker room feel culture as in as far as basketball and stuff, but it was good. It was something where I started filling it out, and I'm like, I could possibly change this culture. So that's that wisdom mindset of like, man, okay, this ain't a normal professional atmosphere culture, but I'm like, I could probably change this by speaking to people, because it was a culture where NASCAR was funny, bro. It was a culture where you could work with somebody all day in the shop, go to the racetrack, and it was a sense of sometimes they wouldn't even know you or speak the same way they spoke to you, all week in the shop.
Wow.
So I'm like, what's up, man? So what I did over the years and now where I'm at, it's like, I'm going to speak to you the same way no matter where I'm at. At the racetrack, I'm like, what's up, bro? What's up? How you doing? How you feeling? And that culture has definitely changed, Richard Childress Racing to the day. Like, my coach, Ray Wright, said, this is probably one of the best culture years we've had, at Richard Childress Racing. And success level as pit crews at RCR. So it definitely was a culture shock, but it's something that I love working on and changing. And I think we changing it little by little, especially the guys that's on my team.
And you feel like you belong because, like I was saying before we started the interview, like with me, working in the media and broadcasting. When I went to a lot of different events, you don't see a lot of us African Americans like in the media industry, and it's kind of predominantly white male industry dominated. So it's kind of like when we go into these events, a lot of times they'll give us this look like, are you supposed to be here? Or they'll check our credentials like I was telling you about. So did you kind of get those kind of looks at first, like?
Somewhat. not necessarily from people that I was with or on my team or who knew me. It was, somebody may have been working the race or, a fan or something like that. But even some teams that, because when you get into the sport, you get contracted out. So you'll go do you'll go do some pit stops for a guy that doesn't know you from Adam and Eve. And they just want you to come and perform, And I would show up. Jackman's like the quarterback of a pit crew, He call all the shots, the plays. He's the calm guy, whatever.
All right, welcome back to the Cross the Line podcast. We had to pause for a quick second. So, Derrell, you were saying before we had to take a quick break, I was asking you, did you feel like you kind of was getting a look like, did you belong in NASCAR from certain people? You said some of them, not from the people you necessarily knew, but from other people that didn't know you. You said you were kind of getting that.
Yeah, sometimes, man, but to be honest, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot at all. Most of the time it was love, man, especially after they saw, my talent and me produce, the job at hand, and that was pit stop. So once they saw me once perform or show my talent, all of that was basically out the window. Like the judgment was done, was gone, So I erased that real quick.
So how long have you actually been doing NASCAR now?
Started in 2014. That was kind of a, just work your way in type of year. So I'm going to say 4 to 5 years.
And you only do pit crews, or do you do some driving? Or
I only do pit crew stuff.
Pit crews?
Yeah.
Kind of talk a little bit about the pit crews, because like I told you a little bit. The first event I went to one NASCAR event. This was back in 2014, I believe. I was at the All-Star race at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Jeff Gordon was getting ready to retire. I think that was his last year racing. And for me, it was just something totally different because I never really watched NASCAR, so I didn't really know what was going on. And any of those drivers, they could have walked by me, and I would have thought they were just a regular person because I didn't know too much about it. But for me, it was a different experience. I was, like I said, I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I just seen how quick the pit crews work. Like, it was just like 10 seconds or less, maybe not even that long. It's like as soon as the cars come in, they take care of them, and then boom.
Yeah.
Just like that.
I mean, pit crew, man, I'm going to start off by saying it's one of the most humbling things you'll ever do in life. The minute you get too high, a pit stop will humble you very quick. You know what I mean? If you don't respect it. But with that being said, man, it's like a symphony. I always use that comparison. It's like a symphony, Everybody got to be in sync, for it to sound good, for it to go right. You got to trust each other. I learned over the years, first off in the sport, first couple years in the sport, I was jumping around from team to team, different guys on my team each week. And now I'm at the point where I've been 2 years with the same crew. So with that being said, there's a lot of chemistry built. There's a lot of trust there. There's a lot of confidence there as a team, We have a whole, aura and swag about us, about when it's time to do pit stops. And, it's a hard thing to do, man. It's definitely a hard thing to do. A lot of practice day in and day out.
Is it kind of like a stressful job? Because the way I look at it, it seems like it could be kind of like a high turnover job, because it's like your job could literally be on the line, because it's like the drivers are really like depending on you to come in, get them in and out. It's quick. So is it kind of like a stressful job in a sense? Yeah,
it's a lot of stress into it. Early on, my earlier years, you can put more stress on it than what it really is. I always like to do things throughout the week to give me perspective, and what I mean by that is go see stuff that where somebody in life is doing way worse than what I'm doing, and that this is just a job, and as long as I give effort, that's cool. As long as I'm giving effort every day throughout the week to do my job to the best of my ability, you're not jumping off the wall to do a pit stop and say I'm gonna mess up, or I want to mess up or screw up or whatever. I'm giving effort every time I do it. And like, I was a basketball player, so me jumping over the wall still to this day, it's foreign for me. This isn't something I've done all my life. I've done it the last 4 years. So it's a hard thing, man. But it's definitely can be stressful, but I've learned to find that happy place and stay right there in that happy place. And I've learned to cope with it way better.
How long are you guys, how much are you guys like on the road?
We're on the road 36 weekends out of the year.
36, and it's just the weekends, or?
Just the weekends for the most part. Fun fact, NASCAR is the longest sports season there is. It's from February to November.
So it's kind of like through the week, what are you guys just prepping at the station, and then.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick summary. So let's say we just come off a race week. That Monday we'll have a debrief of a meeting, with all the pit crews about, your performance. You get stats, you get breakdowns of exactly what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You look at cameras, GoPros to see exactly what you did. You get those numbers from all of that on that Monday. Then you'll have, optional drills right after that. Tuesday you'll have practice. Particularly me, we practice 8 in the morning. Right after we have workouts, for an hour. That's speed and agility as well as strength stuff. Same thing on a Wednesday. You practice and you have your workout, speed and agility.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, the same thing, workouts and whatever the case you want to do on that Thursday to get ready for the week. And that's every week for 36 weeks, man.
Mm-hmm.
You get if I'm not mistaken, you get 1 weekend off, and that's your Easter weekend.
Wow. So it's like an absolute grind the whole time.
Absolutely.
Do y'all have any kind of relationship with the driver, or is it just with the pit crew for you guys?
For me, we definitely have a relationship with our driver. Austin Dillon is real, hands-on with us. He knows us, he knows a little bit about all of us. And that's what, keeps me at Richard Childress Racing on their pit crew. Is a real family atmosphere. And I've always been, every place I've played at and been a part, I've never transferred schools. I've never done stuff like that. Real loyal guy, and I've chose to, stick it, stay right at RCR with the people that gave me the opportunity. And he's definitely hangs out with us. We hang out. We do a lot with our drivers.
I remember just before the race started, anything, I think they had trailers sitting out there, and the drivers would be up in the trailers just relaxing till it's time to drive. So I didn't know if y'all had
some drivers hang out with their crews, some choose not to. It's just who they are and whether they choose to.
Mm-hmm. And I believe the race I was at, I think the winner was Denny Hamlin. He was I don't even know if he's still driving.
Yeah,
he was with Joe Gibbs.
11th with the FedEx car.
Okay, yeah, I remember he actually won. He won the preliminary and then the actual race later on that night. Denny Hamlin was there, and that was my first NASCAR experience, and it was kind of hard to follow a little bit because all you see the guys just going around and around.
Yeah. So you got to kind of know it a little bit. Same thing with me. I had no idea, but now I can sit and watch a whole race on TV and know, exactly what's going on and what they're talking about. It's got its own language, it's his own world, and it's a world I didn't know existed until I was a part of it. And a lot of people in our community don't know it exists until you go to an event and understand that there's hundreds of thousands of people camping out for this event.
Oh yeah, and I saw tents everywhere, and it was cars all down the road.
And they do that for weeks.
Crazy.
Man. They do that for weeks.
The traffic was insane. But and we're gonna get back. We're gonna get that to the African American part of NASCAR. I want to ask you before we get to that. What's the most criticism that you faced in NASCAR? The biggest criticism.
Biggest criticism, man. I don't know. I haven't really felt a bunch of criticism, man. Because like I said, once I do a pit stop, the talent just shows for itself, and whatever judgment might have been in anyone's mind is gone. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you,
what do you think made forgive me, I forgot the gentleman's name. You said he saw some of your basketball games and he told you to come.
Richard Payne.
What do you think made you stand out for him to say, hey, I want to give him a shot? And
man, with the most humbleness and respect, just that leadership that a lot of coaches and a lot of teachers and a lot of people and friends have seen in me for a long time. That leadership, man. A military guy told me in a room full of people, he gonna pick me to go and fight with him. And, that was just recently, a couple months ago, and that was big coming from a military guy. It's just a leadership, man. It's something that I've had for a long time, and it ain't really taught. It's just I want to make everybody around me better. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If I can do that, I'm winning. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's a team atmosphere or anything like that. My job is to make everybody else better.
Absolutely. I want to get back to the part we were saying earlier, that we mentioned earlier about the lack of African Americans in NASCAR. Why do you feel like it may be a lack of us African Americans in NASCAR?
To be honest, man, I think it's the lack of awareness from our community, and that's why a guy like me is gonna make sure I share that. NASCAR is out there. A lot. We watch NBA, we attend NFL, we attend all these Major League Baseball games. NASCAR is a cool event too. Like you said, you've been there yourself. It's a lot of things going on before the race even starts that you could be a part of. You know, if you're a person that like to party, NASCAR's for you. If you're a person that like to drink, NASCAR's for you. If you want to just be free and you like loud noises and motors and stuff, like NASCAR's for you. So, you know, like the guy that showed me and brought me in the sport, I had no idea about it. So I think it's my time to you know, use my platform, you know, on all these social medias to tell, you know, our community about the sport, you know. That answers.
Oh yeah. And what do people? How do people look at you if they ask you, say, hey, what do you do for a living? And you say, I do NASCAR. How do they look at you when you tell them that?
Man, most of the time, I'll be honest, man, they look at it. They're at all when I say it. I really don't even be wanting to say it a bunch because you don't even expect it. You know, I could be at a table, for instance, at dinner, you know, and you know, you're sitting with people in their you know, fiancés or wives, and they're telling what they do for a living, and you know, yeah, it's cool, but I'm like, you know, as soon as I say NASCAR, all the attention comes to me because it's something that I think that is rare.
Yep.
You know, so like I always say this in all my interviews. I talked to my father-in-law, and I was like, man, should I go overseas and pursue basketball, or should I go and do NASCAR? He said, man, go be Jackie Robinson in NASCAR. So that's exactly, you know, what I'm doing. And he always said this. He's a guy that, you know, owns a lot of businesses and stuff like that. And he said, man, if I see NASCAR come across my desk as a resume, I'm probably going to stop at it because it's a rare thing. Different. So that's what really drove me to pursue NASCAR. I was like, man, he might be right. You know, when you come home from overseas after however long you play, that on a resume really don't matter to a lot of people when they see that come across their desk. So I took the route of the NASCAR. Do
you feel like NASCAR does enough to kind of embrace the African American community in a sense? And it's not. And I don't want to say we're bashing. It's just, do you feel like they're doing enough?
I feel like they are taking steps in the right direction. They have, you know, programs like NASCAR Drive for Diversity. And they're definitely trying to grab that audience and that community for sure. You know, of us, we gotta be willing to hear it out and listen to and want to check it out. And like you said, get out of our comfort zone, right? And not just think that, you know, NASCAR is just for white people. We can get up in them gates too. You know what I'm saying? Same way as I'm in the sport. It's a lot of black dudes up and down Pickett Road now, and that's very successful.
Because, like I said, it's either, for most part, it's football and basketball for us. We play baseball, but NASCAR, I can't remember the last time I heard a black person
say anything
about NASCAR. Yeah, it's just like we really don't get into it for.
Yeah, because when you hear, like I said, I ain't know nothing, man. All I knew was the Cheerios box with the car on there, you know, growing up. So. You know, but man, you got dare to be different. You got dare to be different.
Do they try to get you to recruit them, or do you do it on your own to kind of like get African Americans into NASCAR?
I don't necessarily recruit them or nothing like that. You know, I think they a lot of, you know, people are starting to see the success level with me and that Richard Childress and me being African American and stuff like that, and it's like, man, I could do that too. You know, I might need to try to go to his company. You know. I'm not sure, but it's definitely, you know, breaking down a few barriers for guys to feel like they can be a part of it or feel like they can have as much success that I'm having thus far in NASCAR.
How does family and friends back home look at you now with doing NASCAR? Do they kind of embrace that, or is it like, oh man, you should have just did something different, or how is it for them?
They embrace it. You know, I think it's still a little bit of that, you know, unaware of how big this is. Even myself, man, I don't really understand how big it is, and even the history thing with the Daytona 500 when a veteran, you know, changer told me, I'm not gonna realize just how big this is till 20 years from now when they still talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So they, I'm trying to, you know, gain them up on their knowledge of NASCAR and just how cool it is, and you know. Especially with me having the success and how big it is, you know.
How did you find out about the that you made history? You know, being the first African American to win the Daytona 500.
Man, basically like a week after the Daytona 500, I'm like, you know, I was talking to my pit crew guys. I'm like, man, has any black dudes ever won this race? You know, as a pit crew member and this and that. And And they like, man, I don't think so. You know, and I got a guy on my team that's been doing it, 15 years plus, and he like, man, I don't think so. And then I got like a call from NASCAR or somebody in NASCAR, and then a tweet came out from NASCAR Drive for Diversity saying Derrell Edwards was the first, African American pit crew member over the wall. You got to make the emphasis over the wall, man. I went and pit the car during the race. Is the first African American to ever do it. So yeah, it was just cool. I ain't know, man. Like I said, I just do this to leave a legacy, and that just came with it.
Do you feel like the story was as big as it should have been, or maybe our people didn't pay enough attention to it?
I'm gonna say it definitely wasn't blown up to the criteria that I thought it should have been. Like I told you earlier before we started recording, anybody, any race, gender to do anything for the first time is big. I don't care how you look or anything. It's big. It's history. It's the first. So it definitely should be. It definitely should have its publicity or be talked about or be shared. For someone else to be the next first to do something else. Just like Breonna Daniels in NASCAR sport. She's the first female pit crew tire changer. So there's a young lady looking at her. There's a young, kid looking at me. So you gotta share these things for our youth and our future to want to do the same things that we are doing.
Yeah, and I think this something to really appreciate, and it's interesting because we shot earlier this year. We shot a few interviews down in Charleston, and we had the youngest Jordan Jackson. He was the youngest African American. Well, he was the youngest entrepreneur to have a store in Northwoods Mall. He was a 19-year-old African American kid, and then we had Miss Crystal Simmons. She was the first African American woman to win the seat in District 117 in Charleston and Berkeley County. And one of the things that she said to me that kind of stuck out was like she was like, it's kind of a shame that we're saying it's the first time for this. Like, it finally took this long for us to make this kind of history.
That is kind of that's interesting. Yeah.
And it's kind of the same way with NASCAR. It's like, man, we could have been breaking down these barriers and pounding the pavement, but it's not to take anything away from what you've done, because what you've accomplished and things that you continue to do should be appreciated by all of us. So, what else do you think they could do to kind of push NASCAR and for more African Americans to get into it? Is there anything else they could do?
Use stories like this one, man, and I don't mind, doing an event or speaking out or going to a college or going to this and that. And they do have some people for that, with the Drive for Diversity program that are starting to do it. But they could definitely do more, man. You could definitely reach out to. It's never enough, you know what I'm saying? Like, as far as the push and the drive to market to, to push it, man. You can definitely do more. You just gotta put your heads together and do it,
Yes, I want to kind of go back to kind of like breaking barriers and the racial part of things. Like you said earlier, you married a white woman outside of your race. Did people kind of look at you kind of as like, did you get any kind of pushback from family or friends? Oh man, you're a sellout, you're in NASCAR, you married somebody outside of your race. Did you kind of get any kind of flack or anything for that? Or
not really from anybody I knew. Some little stuff on social media, just small comments or something like that.
But people that don't even know you.
Yeah. But man, I think I'm on earth to do stuff like that, to show that is alright. And that's been all my life. Like, that's what I think I'm here for. And that's the problem with like a lot of stuff today. We don't really take time to get to know people. So I'm not gonna be one to add to that. I want to show you that it is okay. And I think that's why I was blessed to meet that young lady and do what I'm doing now with her to show people that it is okay. It's all right for us to gel. It's all right for us to be friends with one another. It's all right for me to have friends outside of my. That's all fine, man. Like, there's no problem with it. So don't let society and all the things they push on TV and news, tell us anything different, because that's all we see, and then that hate will never go away. Yeah, I'm not about to add to that hate.
If you pay attention to the media, it's kind of stirs up this kind of controversy all the time.
We can't let the world, the government, do all of that to us.
Absolutely.
So.
And you said something earlier before we started the interview also that was interesting. You said that, you kind of showed her where you were from, and you said something that I really appreciate from her. On her end, it was like she tries to understand where you're coming from.
Exactly.
A lot of people,
and that's
it's both on both ends.
Exactly.
We don't try to understand the other side, but you said she tries to understand. So that's very important.
That's the big part, man. And that's not even just with me and her. That's us in general. We got
culture.
I don't even think we should even talk about race. It should only be culture. Should be the only thing talked about. You don't know until you've been there. Like, we can say, man, you don't know what we've been through. We don't know that side. Like, it works both ways. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So we gotta want to learn where they coming from too. Like, it's just both sides. But
is it kind of that way with the guys that you work with? Is it kind of trying to get them to understand where you're coming from, and you try to understand where they're coming from?
Yeah, but it ain't like I ask. It ain't like a question. Right. Sometimes if it presents itself, but it's more me paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
They'll ask, but and I just pay. I'm just more aware, man. It's just a paying attention thing, Like, sometimes you gotta just be quiet and observe. You know what I mean? And listen. Versus speaking. So I do that a whole bunch, and I learned it just that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's ongoing. Like I said, this is 36 weeks, so I get to see it every weekend and week out on just how they work, So
Just a few more questions, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up. What's something that what would you say you kind of struggle with the most outside of NASCAR?
Man, the family factor. I'm at that point. I'm 27. I'm at the point now where I'm married. It's the fact of, all right. Now it's time for me to make my own family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And as you come up, you like, family is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Family over everything. All those sayings. But when it's time that you create your own family, that is a hard balance and battle for me. Right
mm-hmm.
now. You got your own family. You got
Absolutely.
Your wife. Biblically, they say your wife is everything. Once you get in, you build off of that. So
mm-hmm. I think that's
a hard battle for me.
Yeah, I think that's something. I throw myself in that same boat as well. Just trying to balance, because for me, starting this journey of entrepreneurship and trying to do my own thing and having a family, it's hard, because sometimes we do a good bit of interviews on the road as well. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like we had to go back and forth, and trying to make sure you have time for family is kind of hard. But it's just like I'm trying to make the sacrifice to kind of benefit us, because at the end of the day, I want to do something that I enjoy, and at the same time, I want to be in a position to where when it's time for our family getaway, like, we don't have to ask, hey, do we have to be off or anything like that. Like, we can just up and go,
mm-hmm.
and I don't have to worry about those kind of things. So it's kind of hard, trying to balance both, like work and a relationship with the family. So that's something I think everybody, kind of struggles with. But if you could go back and do anything differently along your journey, what would it be?
That's a tough question. Man, I try to bring one of those close friends that I grew up with me along the way. Like, really, I would have pushed harder to take them guys to sign up for AAU, to sign up for Travel League, take them out of the neighborhood, show them, little places that I was going. Like, I had friends, man, that wouldn't even go to this mall because it was a nice mall in the county side of,
mm-hmm.
Outside of the city. Just that's how uncomfortable they were,
Mm-hmm.
So I would push harder for my friends growing up that, it was something bigger than our city.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we said it a lot, I would have showed them more.
Absolutely. Do you how often do you get to go back home now? I know you're pretty busy. You said 36 weeks.
Yeah.
But how do you try to get to go home?
Rare, man. I don't really go home that much, man, to be honest. Yeah, rarely, man. It might be once a year, something like that, if I do.
Do you still feel that love when you get a chance to go back?
Yeah, man. Because a lot of times, man, I think the love has gone until like I do something. Like I said, I posted a video on social media, and all the love and all the comments that I got from people was, man, you still got that love, you know. And sometimes you think it's gone until you do stuff like that, and they show you that, man, nah, it's still there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a good feeling. So I definitely think I still got a bunch of love there and respect.
Did you feel like you had to kind of prove something to anybody? Was it like, hey, I can do this? Was there anybody that you had to show them that you had this in you?
Early on, I felt like I had a lot to prove. Like I said, man, I basically was hooping all through high school, you know, for the neighborhood. And then as I got older and went to college and stuff, you know, I started to know, you know, I need to be playing for myself. You know, I got a lot to prove to myself, you know, not to other people. And then I got, you know, I got in the God and stuff like that, and found a higher power, and I made that. I learned that if I had an audience of one, a lot of this stuff would become easier. So my higher power, you know, was that audience of one for me, and it made a lot of stuff easier.
You say how everywhere you went, you kind of brought this winning mentality. You had so much success, and like with the number 3, and it's like you feel like everything happened for a reason. Do you feel like it was God talking to you?
Man, yeah, in a way, man, because like it all the pieces to the puzzle just was coming together slowly, man. I mean, year after year, day after day, I would get a glimpse of something that showed me that I was supposed to be doing exactly what I was doing at the time. And even now in NASCAR, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I wasn't supposed to go to NBA and all of that. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now, breaking these barriers down for a young kid at the bottom that feel like he ain't gonna ever make it, or feel like he, you know, can't go to NBA. Like, this is another avenue for you.
Absolutely.
That's possible. So I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, man. And yes, you know, I feel like it was, you know, God talking to me, man. All this, I mean, this is ironic, man. I mean, this is weird. I mean, look around, and you know, this ain't no joke. I've never had another number, you know, in my life. So for me to end up on this car that I'm doing now in NASCAR, it's just putting it.
And it's something that people can appreciate when it's something different. And, you know, just showing if you pound the pavement, what you can accomplish. But I gotta ask you, do you still follow basketball now?
Yeah, I follow. Especially, I follow college more than I do NBA.
College?
Yeah, man.
Who was your favorite college team?
Man, I don't really even have a college team, to be honest, man. I mean, obviously, you know, if the hometown of any sort makes it, or you know, I'm gonna be pushing for them. If the hometown's playing against them, I'm rooting for them. Maryland, the Orioles, Baltimore Ravens, big Ravens fan.
I'm a Ravens fan. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, you see it. So yeah, yeah, man. I just love the competition. I just love watching, and more importantly, I think above and beyond the games, I wait to see the interviews after. I wait to see the coach talk. When Clemson won the national championship,
Dabo gave a great speech after the
That's what I pay attention to. That's the wisdom in me. What that man said, he said, man, I wrote it down, but he said, you know, you couldn't paint a Hollywood script like this. That's what he said, or something like that.
And a lot of people don't know about his journey at Alabama and everything. And I think they said I believe his mom had to, at one point, sleep on his dorm room floor.
And that's what I'm saying. And what I'm saying a lot more out of a lot of athletes is when they get those interviews, they're like, man, I'm just blessed, or thank God. That's the first thing they said. And for me, at that point when I was doing that mean I was starting to wake up. So I'm like, man, a lot of these dudes starting to wake up and realize this stuff ain't just no natural given stuff. Like this, it gotta come from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? You gotta give credit when it's due, man. Absolutely. You know, they blessed. You know, I'm blessed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One last question before we get out of here. What would you say is your ultimate goal?
Man, my ultimate goal is to have a big enough platform that way, you know, I can touch thousands and millions of people with my story and my journey, and ultimately leave that legacy behind. You know, I do life because it's all about how will I be remembered. You know, I want to leave a legacy of Derrell Edwards, the Edwards family, great character guy. Like, how will you be remembered? That's big to me. That's the only reason why I'm doing all of what I'm doing. Absolutely. Like, it ain't the money. I've learned that don't make you happy. that's what leaving my legacy, man. Touch people, like share my story, my journey, you know, and have that platform. It ain't about the fame, it's about the platform. It's about somebody wanting to listen to me. Unfortunately, you gotta have a certain platform for people to want to listen to you. Absolutely. So that's the only reason why I want a platform.
Mm-hmm. Well, Derrell, I appreciate you for coming on this platform. Like I said, your story was inspiring, man, so I absolutely had to reach out to you, and it's something different, you know, especially coming from your community, the African American community, the way you grew up. It's just like people need to hear this kind of stuff, man. It just shows that you can actually make it no matter what your circumstances are. You can make it.
Yeah, no
because
doubt.
A lot of people need to realize that kind of stuff. But before we get out of here, can you tell everybody where to find you?
Like I said, my name is Derrell Edwards. On Instagram it's NASCAR_rel. And yeah, that's basically it. You can find me on Facebook, Derrell Edwards, DERRELL Edwards. That's it, really, man. And I'll say one more thing, man. If I can, you can. You know, so I'll leave you with that. And the time is now. So act on anything you're feeling and all those dreams you're feeling. Chase them right now.
Absolutely. Derrell, I appreciate you again.
Oh,
and good luck in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And also, thank you again to Miss Charlene from Charlene's Home Cooking in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And until next time, keep chasing your dreams. This is the Cross Line Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Hey, what's going on, man? It's Derrell Edwards from Baltimore, Maryland. First African-American pit crew member to ever win the Daytona 500. And you tuning in right now, and please check out Cross Line Podcast.